Here's the big story. We have this week, teams could franchise tag players, which keeps them off the free agent market. Nobody has issued a franchise tag yet to any star free agent. The second big story is here comes free agency about 2 weeks from now. And when that free agency kicks in, there are a ton of teams that are in desperate need for quarterbacks, and there are teams that have quarterbacks that they might be able to shop. Nice headline, quarterback derby about to begin. Let's just run through these lists. Evidently, the Chicago Bears are shopping Justin Fields. The young quarterback has been there 3 years. I think has gotten collectively better and better, though he's been hurt. But they have the number one pick, and evidently they are going to take Caleb Williams from USC, which means they are shopping Justin Fields. And there are a ton of teams behind them in the first round of the draft that are in desperate need of a quarterback. I hear that they have talked to Atlanta. They have talked to Minnesota. Those teams are in that 8, 11, 13 bracket. The Raiders are at 13. Second name is Kirk Cousins. He's made so much money as a Minnesota Viking. They're not franchise tagging him. I don't think they can re-sign him. Minnesota's got a major problem because they have to deal with two of their top other young players whose contracts are up. Danielle Hunter, the defensive end, and Justin Jefferson, who's got only 1 year left on his deal. You can't keep Cousins and then pay the going rate to Hunter or to Jefferson. We think Cousins is probably going to go on the open market and be a free agent. Third one is Baker Mayfield, and all of a sudden, he's starting to get a lot of play from other people, aside from the team that he played for last year, Tampa Bay. I heard New England is now interested in Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay had hoped to sign him before the free agent window opens on March 11th, where people can sign. At this point, he's yet to sign. We're waiting to see what happens with Russell Wilson. Will this be Sean Payton's decision to move on and start this rebuild with a new young quarterback? Will it be stay the course with Russell Wilson? The problem in Denver, if they release him, $45 million cap hit. That's a significant amount of dead money. A quarterback who's going to be moved, either traded or released, though I don't think he's got much market value, is Zach Wilson, former high number one draft pick in New York with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers takes over. Wilson has nowhere to play. Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't stay on the field because of injuries, despite what he did briefly in New England, what he did in San Francisco, didn't get done with the Raiders. He's going to be released probably within the next week. Amongst the free agent quarterbacks out there, ex-Tennessee Titan Ryan Tannehill. There's a report he might be going to Pittsburgh. The gunslinger Gardner Minshew, who's kind of a vet, did a good job with the Colts, but the Colts have their quarterback coming back, Anthony Johnson from last season. Sam Darnold, number one draft pick, didn't work with the Jets, back up in San Francisco, probably going to go on the open market. Most intriguing name to me is Drew Lock, who was a high Bronco pick, was included in the Seattle trade that brought Russell Wilson to Denver. In cameo appearances, he's really been competitive. He's never really had a true start, a long period to show what he can do. But Drew Lock might be interesting. Carson Wentz, been there, done that. He's been with a whole bunch of teams. And a unique one is Easton Stick, the backup quarterback of the Chargers, who was pretty competitive after Justin Herbert got hurt, but they just never scored a lot of touchdowns when he was running the offense on those scoring drives. He goes on the open market. Somebody running a unique offense that might fit his talent skills might well take a run at him. So we're going to be talking a lot of NFL quarterbacks in the following weeks, but that's a sneak preview of what's going on. So what do you think?
Isn't it interesting when you look at all those names, and all of them have had moments, where we thought, hey, this guy could be good.
Sure.
Was Carson Wentz came from like a D2 school, didn't he?
Yes.
And so maybe this guy's going to pan out. And every one of them, they flamed out. Well, Baker Mayfield maybe is kind of having a bit of a comeback. He's probably one of the more interesting names on that list. But Jimmy G, he was always kind of hanging on by a thread with the 49ers. So these guys will probably cycle around. I mean, is there a team that's out there that just needs a veteran quarterback and they want to spend their draft picks elsewhere?
Half the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got at the top, you got Chicago's got number one and will trade Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Washington's got number two. They don't have a quarterback. New England's got number three. They don't have a quarterback. And then you drop a little farther down, you got Atlanta, you got Minnesota, you got the Raiders, maybe you got the Denver Broncos, and that's deeper into the first round. And the question is, can any of these guys overpay the price to jump up the board to get one of the top college quarterbacks? Or do they just say, I'll trade you a third-round pick and give me one of those guys, et cetera? And do they have any cap space to sign a star like Kirk Cousins? It's fascinating how this thing has evolved.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these names like Easton Stick, by the way. He's got a great name in the world of football. What was his backstory? Because I don't remember him as a college player.
North Dakota State, 1AA. He's the one that replaced Carson Wentz.
Oh, wow.
And Carson Wentz went to the NFL, did well early, got hurt. He's never been the same quarterback since and has gone team to team to team. But Stick was back here as a backup to Justin Herbert, and then he got the chance to play. He was really competitive, and he's a really good athlete. He's a really smart kid. But then he scored any touchdowns when they had all these drives, and he'd make some plays, and he scored a lot of touchdowns. Didn't win much at the end of the season. So, he's young, athletic, suspect rather than being a prospect.
Well, who of all these guys is the one that you would take a gamble on, assuming the money was the same for all of them?
I'm fascinated in Drew Lock. A great career at Missouri, went to Denver, got thrown on the field, bad situation, got benched, got included in the Seattle trade, didn't get much opportunity until Geno Smith got hurt. And then he played for the Seahawks at the end of last season for Pete Carroll, and Drew Lock played pretty doggone well. Didn't turn the ball over. And that's one of the afflictions of all young quarterbacks is, my God, they're coming after me, and I start throwing into coverages I shouldn't throw. Drew Lock, to me, is more interesting than anybody because he's had some experiences. I don't know what to make of Zach Wilson. I watched a lot of Jets games, and he always seems to be a day late on his delivery. He always seems to be thrown into coverage he shouldn't. And we're talking about a third-year guy, and I shouldn't be doing this at this point in time. Big physical specimen, no doubt about it, but no consistency to his game. So if I were looking and I had a few dollars left, I'd take a run at Drew Lock. And again, these organizations, John, they'll sit there and they'll look at every snap that quarterback has taken in the NFL. They'll break down all his games. So they have much more incisive approach to evaluate what he does well, what he can't handle. Is he in over his head? Is he victimized because he's had a crap team around him? I mean, there's lots of things that these player personnel guys and these scouts will evaluate. You walk into, when I was the voice of the Chargers, I'd walk into the coaching offices, and they would have walls and walls and walls of cassettes. Mm-hmm. And they'd have a cassette on Drew Lock, where they break down all his game film, and then have a cassette on Carson Wentz. I'm saying, I know you're evaluating quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Every player's got a cassette with highlights, lowlights that these staffs, these quality control guys, that's all they do is look at video and excerpt plays and put it here in that folder. So that's what NFL coaches do now.
Well, on this list, is there any quarterback that you think is going to be done? They're going to retire. They're not going to play next year.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say Wentz, but he's been on the street before. Darnold is now kind of just a periphery guy. Garoppolo's had 3 kicks at the can with 3 different teams. Mm-hmm. So maybe he winds up going somewhere on a minimum contract and prove yourself that you can be my backup quarterback, because I don't think he's a starter right now. And he's had so many injuries, he just can't stay on the field. So it's fascinating to see how the NFL, they evaluate every player. Every coach's office has got bookcases of cassettes of offensive tackles or cornerbacks. It's fascinating. If you got inside a pro football organization's war room, coaching staff's offices, you would see that everywhere. It's really...
Well, hopefully it's all digital now.
Yeah, well, it is. Exactly. But I'm just telling you from quote back in the day. Okay, we go from